I'm Andrew Murata, host of the Education, Leadership, and Beyond podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you are listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
What is up? It is the Hitech Podcast, back for another week. You are listening to me, Josh, one of the hosts, joined by my other host,
Will, me, Illingworth,
hey,
this guy.
Look at that. Another guy. There's two of us. We are here for another week of EdTech, fun, and high-tech hijinks. This is an interesting week for us. If you're listening to this intro, you're either listening to it for the first time, or you heard it last week, or the week before. That is because Will and I were at what I call it FETC. There's some debate about this.
There's no debate.
I mean, it's kind of like I would just like to point out that it's kind of like when the guy who made GIF said it was GIF.
Oh,
I don't know.
All right.
Anyway,
because I agree with you there. It's called a GIF. It's not a GIF. But anyways.
Yeah, I knew I would get your heartstrings on that one. We went to FETC, which is a great EdTech conference. Will and I were there for 4 days.
A lot of time. It felt like forever.
Days. Yeah, exactly. It felt like forever. But forever of fun. It was fantastic. We got to meet a bunch of new people. We got to connect with some friends of the podcast who have been on before. And so we are going to be doing 3 full episodes of content here. And this is our intro for each of those episodes. So if you heard this last week, sorry.
Skip it.
Yeah, skip it. Yeah, that's
here's your note for the next 2 weeks. Just skip this portion. It's going to be 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, just skip the first couple minutes. It's fine, okay? But we are going to be on a great journey. We get to talk to a lot of different people, and we're going to be splicing that in over these next 3 episodes. So you will get to hear from people from tools like ClassVR, and you will hear from tools like Shoelace. If you don't know what Shoelace is, good, you're going to find out in one of these episodes.
It's not just the thing you tie your shoes with.
Yeah, exactly. It's got some more. We got to hear from Renee again while we were at the conference, who's been on the podcast before, and we got to hear a whole bunch of other fun people. So it's a cool experience, if I do say so myself. Will, any other words you want to leave with our listeners? At least 3 times?
Folks, that's a great point. We put in 30,000, 40,000 steps worth of effort into this conference and recording. So we hope this is fun. We hope this is informative, and please do share this content. Definitely come out to FETC 2025. You're going to hear at the very end of these 3 episodes a really good reason why. So we appreciate you coming along for the journey.
More importantly than that, what's new is we've now added in, as of today, access to 360cities.net content. So hundreds of thousands of high-quality 360 images that are professionally shot are now available for you to come in and, let's say, search for Arizona.
We're also recording ourselves. So. Also, we're not even in angle.
Cut this.
All right. That's good. All right, we're back. I was gonna say 2, and then I said we're back, and I did this. It was like a piece.
Nice try.
I was trying it.
It's late in the day.
Yeah, it's late in the day.
Not enough coffee.
Will,
our best attempt.
Will and I are a little tired. We've not had any biters yet. Will and I are not really good at fishing, I'm finding.
This is Will and Josh, the Hitech Podcast at the FETC 2024 conference. We're having a great time, and we're very excited to introduce Chris Klein. Now, I didn't ask ahead of time, but I assume that's how it's pronounced.
That is correct.
I got it.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So,
Chris, you're with ClassVR, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Excellent. Would you mind? Give us a little bit about ClassVR. We're assuming virtual reality.
Yes.
But is there more to it than that?
Actually, there is. So ClassVR is a product that's been out on the market for about 7 years.
Great.
And it is a blended hardware software offering that we provide. And I'll talk a little bit more about why we do it that way. But the interesting thing that what we do is we are 180 degrees polar opposite from any other hardware manufacturer out there in the space.
Okay.
And I say that not just from a marketing spin perspective.
Okay.
What ClassVR does and what we do exceedingly well is that we focused on if VR and AR, virtual and augmented reality, are going to be used in the classroom, what are the needs of the teachers to be able to do that?
Okay.
Hardware is one thing,
Yeah.
right? And everyone else has a what I call consumer approach to the problem. We're going to build a really good, nice piece of kit,
Okay.
sell it to you, and then send you to the Google Play Store to download an app that's going to do the teaching for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that is we are polar opposite
Do
of
this,
that.
this, and by the way.
Exactly. So what we did is we started actually with the question of if a teacher, and I use the term teacher loosely, if an instructor, if
Yeah.
a person who's facilitating a group interaction
Yep.
wants to use virtual and augmented reality because they understand the benefits, they understand that it hits at an emotional level, they understand that the students remember, the learners remember the context as well as the content.
Yeah.
So they really focus on wanting to bring that in. What are their needs? What do they need to be able to do this quickly, easily, and seamlessly, and not have to have a doctorate in virtual and augmented and extended reality to be able to do that?
Darn it.
I know.
My next step. I was gonna.
So what we said, okay, obviously there are certain key elements when you ever talk about hardware design.
Sure.
And that is if you have a laptop, teachers learned early on this cool thing called proximity control.
Okay.
Okay.
Basically means get your butt up from behind your desk. And if your kids are on laptops, walk around behind them so that you can see what
Right.
they're working on.
Right. You
How do
need
you-
to move.
Exactly. But how do you do that when the lens is an eighth of an inch away from their eyes?
Very carefully.
Very carefully, exactly. So teachers if they're going to buy into the idea, they have to know that they are protected and safeguarded, and they can maintain a level of control and focus and management on the students. So how can we help them do that? And what we did is we started with the software first.
Okay.
So we built a web-based management platform to allow teachers to be able to easily use virtual and augmented reality resources, meaning 360 pictures,
Okay.
Got it.
VR videos,
Okay.
3D augmented reality models,
A library.
a library.
Assets
Okay.
that they can use, pick and choose.
Exactly. And as part of the software, they get a starter library of about 2,500 pieces of content.
Okay.
And teachers will sometimes, K-12 teachers will ask, well, is it aligned? Is it correlated? No, because they're just resources.
Yeah.
If I've got a beating human heart as a 3D model, how does that align to anything?
Or how many things does it align to?
And- That's actually the case. I usually will ask back, how many of you have pulled down maps in your classroom? Are those aligned? Well, no, of course not. They're just resources. That's what we do, the same thing.
Right.
So we provided a web-based library accessible by any web browser.
Okay.
You find the resource you want, you can search for it, you click, drag, and drop it into a playlist. You press the paper airplane icon and it sends the playlist to the headsets, which are consumption appliances.
Okay.
The students put the headset on. They only have the 4 things you gave them. That's
okay.
it.
Okay.
So they're not looking at pyramids when you're trying to teach biology
Yeah.
or anything like that.
They can't get off track. They're on the rails with you.
Yeah.
In
Gives
the
the
Exactly.
teacher a lot of control over what they want to give in the VR environment. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So again, that's where we started with ClassVR. We focus on those 3 types of content, but we also knew very early on, we didn't want to be the choke point of people using different types of content.
Okay.
And this is sort of the unspoken secret sauce as to why we work in corporate, government, military, higher education, et cetera, because not only do we give you that starter library, we also deal with root file formats and allow you to bring in your own content.
Upload it.
So if you've got a 360 image, it's a JPEG or a PNG,
Okay.
you can put it into our portal, push it out to the headset.
Awesome.
MP4 for video, GLB or STL for augmented reality 3D models. If you can find it, or if you can build it, or you can take it or capture it, you can upload it and use it with our headsets.
Wow.
Okay.
So the last part of that whole puzzle was the headset.
Yeah.
I mean,
So we
that-
got to this point, and oh wait,
we can build that too, and we did.
awesome.
So that is sort of what the ClassVR model really is. It's that platform of having that secured on again, off again level of instruction, enhancing and engaging the students on your existing curriculum, not trying to force feed you with with our curriculum that we think you should teach.
Okay.
Well, you need to know if you're the biology teacher, if you're the geography teacher, what resources, assets you want to go and use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to be the expert. You need to pick and choose. You need to find the right things that are going to, show what you're trying to teach.
Right.
Yeah.
But you provide a large library of what's already there, and then upload whatever you've got. Or
Exactly.
make whatever you want to
Yeah.
add in.
I really dig that, because I think that has been, we hear conversation about VR and we like it. We're very interested. We've had a friend on the podcast who designs VR games, and much better than we could ever do. But the thing that I know that's always a hurdle for a lot of teachers is that component of, like, they often will get kind of a preset things that they can use, and the criticism is usually, well, I can only use 5% of what
Right.
I've had. So empowering the teachers to be able to bring in what they need
Or
into
someone-
this environment is really cool.
Who looks at the name brand, video gaming VR consoles.
Yep.
Like, how can I make that do what I want it to do?
Yeah.
Well, do you have an expert?
Exactly.
It sounds like this is like we could hand this to a teacher.
Oh, absolutely. So we design everything. I will say this right now. I would not go and buy ClassVR for me to use at home from an edutainment, entertainment perspective.
Yeah,
sure.
That's not what we do at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's other people that do that extremely well, but it's when their square pegs are trying to fit into the round holes of education that you start to see the big gap. So we took all that in. I mean, and you being in ed tech, people talk about MDM, mobile device management. Well, if you've got a portable device of any kind, which all a VR headset is, it's a mini phone or a mini tablet. Well, we got to apply our MDM. No, we actually already have that built in. Well, we need to be able to make sure that we're tracking their web traffic. No, we just didn't put a web browser on there.
Easy.
Well, how do we know about permissions and if they got Google Play, or do they need to have a Facebook account or anything like it? No, the students are unidentified. It's just a consumption appliance. You put it on as an instructional tool for that period of time, take it off, move on with the rest of your content.
I can see someone, even in my own life, going, well, but I want to put my blah, blah, blah account or no, we're
Yeah.
trying to teach. The purpose here is to teach. And one of the things that I think is really tough for educators is navigating SIPA and all these privacy laws about protecting the students in the first place.
And it's only
Your
getting
product
worse.
doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Just
I
use it. There's no concern.
I jokingly say we don't design for the student. We design for the teacher,
Okay.
because
Alright.
the school will buy, but if the teacher doesn't buy into it,
Yep.
the student will never touch it.
Yeah.
So we have to design with the teacher in mind. And I don't care whether that teacher is just saying, I want to just use this 3D model of an emperor penguin because I'm teaching about the Arctic.
Right.
Yeah.
Fine, you can do that. One thing on your playlist. But if it helps get the students engaged, if it's easy enough for you to just drag, drop, push, okay, put the headset on. Okay, then the next time you come around to something, you're going to maybe do 2 or 3 resources,
Yeah.
4 or 5. We're not here to replace everything you're doing. I will quite often say, I don't ever want to walk into a classroom and see 30 students with 30 headsets on for 30 minutes or more. There's not teaching going on at that point.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is, as we went through, people did come back to us and they said, images, video, 3D models, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And it fits with what we're doing. Everything from, we've got these 3D printers that we don't know what to do with because they're expensive and they jam, and the filament, it takes 14 hours to print one thing. Just take that GLB or STL file, upload it, and have it in augmented reality instead in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
Or I've gone on a field trip, but I always have those students at home that couldn't go on the field trip because they didn't turn in their permission slip or behavior problems or whatever. Well, take a 360 camera, take those pictures, record that video, bring it back, upload it. Now they can have that same experience. We then looked at, I don't know if you might remember, there's a little thing that happened called COVID.
Was that 2020?
Yeah, it was
Like,
around. It was
like
around
10
there.
years ago.
That's
Yeah.
out of my brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always refer to that as a chair tip moment for education.
Yeah.
When you lean back on the chair just a little bit too far and you have to catch yourself, and that's what the entire industry had to do.
Yep.
What we found is, as a company that manufactured hardware that has to be on the same Wi-Fi subnet as the teacher's device, that doesn't work well in distance learning.
Yeah.
What we found is that anyone building anything that goes on a student's face and then gets shared with someone else wasn't happening during that time because we didn't understand how the pandemic was being transmitted and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we
Yep.
took a step back and said, what are people actually doing? Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was doing Zoom. Everyone hated Zoom. And why
I
did
don't know what you're talking about.
but the reason why they hated it was not because of the technology. Technology is actually
not
very
good.
cool, but they didn't like the camera.
Yeah.
The kids didn't like the camera. They didn't want people looking into their homes, seeing what their home life was like. The teachers didn't want, it takes me a long time to get my hair this good. So when I'm waking up, rolling out, it's hard for them. But what if we were able to find a way to use virtual reality and what we know about that,
Yeah.
and still provide a way for students and teachers to interact and engage with each other? We did, and that was our fourth type of content,
Ah,
the Eduverse,
Okay.
the metaverse for education,
got it.
device agnostic, location independent, any device with a web browser. It doesn't have to be an immersive headset because
Okay.
4 to 7% of the population can't do VR anyway
Yeah.
because of astigmatism, vertigo,
Yeah.
visual acuity issues.
I didn't
Exactly.
mean to identify, but I identify. I can't see 3D, so. it
So,
makes
so
sense.
now how can we make sure that you're part of the lesson?
Right.
The app developer that just threw something up on Google Play and hasn't updated it in 18 months, they're not concerned about that
Yeah.
because that's a consumer play. But we want to make sure everyone gets brought along.
Yeah.
So we started off with something called Room, VR Room, instead of
Okay.
Zoom.
Like it.
And
Digging it already.
that became a free offering to teachers, and it basically allowed for real-time interaction. Students and teachers represented as avatars, shared environment, voice over IP,
Okay.
any browser, any device, anywhere, anytime.
Okay.
That turned into, well, let's make this educational. So it turned into something called Avantis World, which was the world's first VR theme park.
Okay.
Then that turned into what is now the Eduverse, which has over 500 explorable scenes that the teacher and students are able to be in at the same time, talking to each other, navigating through Trip Through Time, Super Science, Engaging Earth, Literacy Land, and now Mathematics Land.
Okay.
And since we offer a suggested lesson to go along with it, all correlated to state standards.
Aha.
Wow. Okay.
So the assets going back a little while,
Yep,
pick and choose. But now that we're talking some curriculum,
exactly.
built it to what it needs to be built to.
They
It's the
can go
standard
in-
that all the teachers are using.
Exactly. They can go in and say, Florida, grade 5, science. Here's your state standards. Here's the lessons we have that correlate to that. Click on it, opens in a new browser window. Teacher says, invite. Take the QR code, send it out to your class. Everyone can join in an avatar in real time, be on the bus with Rosa Parks, learning about civil rights, be in the Valley of the Dinosaurs, walking through, looking at the brontosaurus and things like that.
Okay. That's pretty awesome.
Now we're gonna have to do a screen recorded version of this episode.
Yes, I
some
need.
other time.
We're gonna need to come back and take a look at this because I need to see this.
So,
It's-
so you just suggested two historical things like, oh, do we have the pyramids? Do we have things like that? Like,
Yeah,
maybe not
so,
them
so we do have,
specifically,
we do have the pyramids, and we are looking at adding in, so we have a couple big announcements at the show.
but-
And the first one is we have added in mathematics.
right.
So everything from fractions,
Congratulations.
decimals, money counting, things like that. We've got about 47 new scenes that have been added for Mathematics Land. We've also added in another 50 or so scenes for Literacy Land, talking about spelling, punctuation, grammar, apostrophes, etc. And that's on top of what we already had for books, plays, poetry, so you can actually be in the scene with Romeo and Juliet. You
Oh, wow.
can
Okay.
go into George Orwell 1984. You
Uh-oh.
so all of that there.
Not sure I want to go there.
Yeah.
Take me back.
Super, but Trip Through Timeland, I used to be a social studies teacher.
Okay.
So Trip Through Timeland, Modern World Zone, that's where you're going to find Pearl Harbor, World War II, Vietnam War, Korea, civil rights, Rosa Parks. As a matter of fact, we actually have a bunch of new content that's coming out for Black History Month.
Okay.
And that's going to be available for free. So if anyone goes to eduverse.com, they can click enter the Eduverse, create a free account. They'll have access to all of that to be able to use with whatever hardware they're currently using.
Or take home.
Or
right?
take
Just
home,
go,
exactly.
take it home, whatever. Yeah.
And as a teacher, I can decide, do I want this to be a shared session? Or I can issue a hall pass where you can go in it just by yourself. You can go in your own session just by yourself, same URL, but I don't have to worry about cyberbullying or anything like that when the teacher's not present.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So we
So,
built
so in most cases, they might control it. The teacher's present with them in the Eduverse,
exactly.
being the protective, but also the instructive presence.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then these hall passes are like, go ahead, do some homework at home.
Yeah.
Or any other situation.
Or
Wow.
a lot of teachers I've actually found are doing like, here's the hall pass for, I'll go back to the Rosa Parks scene. Here's the hall pass for Rosa Parks. For homework tonight, find 3 things that you found interesting.
Yep.
Come
Okay.
in, turn that in, and then as a class, let's all go in there together,
Yeah.
visit all these different things and discuss it as a class.
That's
staff.
actually super cool. Yeah.
So we're really
When did
happy
we
about
sign
that. Eduverse.com.
That's amazing. I mean, let's sit on that for a second. So eduverse.com is where folks are going to get into this metaverse, this 3D experience. Is it 3D?
Yep.
3D experience for them to use on their own time, teaching, instruction, whatever. Classroom VR is both, or Class VR, excuse me, is both hardware and software. We need the
Yes.
headsets.
Yes.
So
So
the Eduverse, go home, start today, tomorrow. Teachers
Correct.
can do that right now.
Correct.
Class VR is something we need to get set up.
yeah, there's a whole other piece of the component of the management of the hardware.
Got it.
Now, what we are doing is we are mirroring the libraries
Sure.
of content back and forth as much as possible. And we
Okay.
are looking at bringing more of our static VR 360 image, VR video, 3D model, bringing that over into an avatar-based Eduverse approach. But the way the interactions are slightly different. So if I have a VR headset on and I launch one of those 3D models, I can hold one of our augmented reality cubes and actually hold it in my hand and
No.
look at it. Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Okay. That's,
Josh and I are big nerds.
Yeah,
big gamers.
Yep.
This is
we like the VR world as well. The like, so this is cool. I'm nerding out a little.
sorry.
bit.
No, that's it's fun. I mean, it's fun what
Yeah,
I get to
yeah,
do. But then if you do that though in a multi-user online environment, how does that work there? So what we've actually done is we've taken that same 3D model of the human heart, but instead of holding it with our augmented reality cube, now it appears as if you're in a museum where it's in the center and the avatars are able to walk around it. So it's a shared environment then. So we're always having to kind of think
Okay.
about what's the delivery model here.
Yeah.
And we have some schools that are in blended, some schools that are just VR headsets, some schools that have no VR headsets at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really like how you guys are kind of, if I can find a theme that happens through everything you're commenting on, creatively solving solutions by just finding simple answers. Like
Right.
so many people make it overcomplicated. You're
Yeah.
like, well, we can't turn it. Okay, fine. People will turn.
Exactly.
They will go around.
Yeah.
It's super cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, let's make a whole new software, technology, hardware to fix this problem. No, there's an easier way to do this.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
gonna work. Eduverse, like I was saying, teachers could start tomorrow.
Mhm.
Sounds like Class VR, we need the district involved at some level, or could
Yeah.
a teacher buy 1 or 5 themselves?
So we sell in sets of 8 and
Okay.
carts of 30.
Okay.
Because we do truly believe that Class VR really sort of steps it up. If you're just looking for a single, let's say you're higher ed or something like that, there are always going to be what I call auto show manufacturers, the ones that want to sell that concept vehicle.
Yeah.
And we want to be the Toyota Corolla that works for 95% of the audience, 95% of the time. It's how we're going to get out there to the masses, make it simple, make it easy. If you want to do something with a wired headset going to a rack of servers that is incredibly high power, go for it. That's great. That's not us. That's not
Right,
us.
right.
So we sell in sets of 8 or kits of 40, or I'm sorry, sets of 8 or carts of 30.
Yeah.
We try to make it as simple as possible, but because of the way we leverage things such as some IP protocols, URLs need to be whitelisted.
IT needs to be involved.
They do.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it already. Like,
The
oh,
only
no.
time I've ever seen, now I will
Not a
say
bad thing.
this, no, it's they should be involved.
Right.
Usually the decision happens from the curriculum side of the house,
Right.
but the sign off has to happen
sign-off
from the technology side of the
Yep.
house. And one of the biggest sticking factors of all is a very easy conversation where this needs to be on the same subnet Wi-Fi, the same Wi-Fi subnet as the teacher device.
Yeah.
And it kicks back, whoa, student devices are on a separate network. We run that because we got different
Yeah.
filters and things like
Yeah.
that. And that's when we fall back on, we have no web browser. We have no access to the Google Play Store.
Yeah.
There's no outbound traffic.
We
The
can make
students,
this safe.
They're
and
not going to be able to
Exactly.
do anything on that network
Right.
from your device.
all
Yeah.
they do is they consume the content
Yeah.
the teacher's already put out there. When you have that brief explanation, the IT department say, oh yeah, it's like a network copier. That's fine. We'll put it on there.
Yeah.
But if they don't, and a teacher just goes and acquires it through Donors Choose or through a grant or whatever,
Sure.
and they bring it back in, then the IT department may or may not pull the not on my network.
Yeah.
And so I would rather have the conversation up front because it's not a difficult conversation, but it could really be a blocker if you,
If you partner from the front end, you can just get to teaching sooner.
exactly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
true.
Yep.
That's awesome. So ClassVR, get in touch with your folks at your districts to bring that tool to the school.
Absolutely.
At theedgeverse.com,
Uh-huh.
get on there, get started.
Exactly.
Make a free account.
Yep.
Get going.
Okay.
Upper
And
right-hand
then-
corner, enter the Edgeverse, ask you some basic information, log in, have access to our showcase zones, ability to invite in up to 3 other users with you. So you see what
Great.
that looks like.
Okay.
You can take a look at what a sample teacher notes and student notes, all that's already there for you.
And then a pay up, for more features, more time, all
Yep.
that later on. Great. That's what we want to know. Like, we are looking to make sure teachers can take this amazing idea, this amazing tool, and get started tomorrow. We want them to pick it up and try it.
And I'll even be a little bit more transparent. $6.99 per school.
Okay.
And all the teachers have access
Cool.
to the entire Edgeverse on all of their
One
hardware,
flat rate.
a one flat rate per school. There you go.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time with us, sharing these stories, but also sharing how ClassVR is developing, all the opportunities that are coming out of it, getting Josh and I interested in wanting
Yes,
to do it
getting
ourselves.
excited.
Come on down and play, guys. Come on down and play.
Amazing. And I really hope you have a good rest of the conference, folks. Keep coming around and learning what is awesome about classroom VR and what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for what you're doing also.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
I think so far today for me though, you said like what are we learning? What are we taking away? A big win was sitting down into an Adobe Express session, not expecting much. No offense, I don't know. We've both used Adobe Express, Adobe Spark before. It's pretty simple. Josh
they're
is
good
a
tools.
huge Canva nerd.
What? No.
We like Canva. Canva's
I mean,
a
it's not
fun
like we did a whole
podcast, right?
extravaganza.
Yeah, episode 100.
Yeah, episode 100.
But all that aside, we sat down. We're going to give it a fair chance. We're enjoying the conversation. We're enjoying the presenters. It's great. And then they showed a feature. We're just like, oh yeah, duh, that's why we're here. You can do voiceover recordings straight into Adobe Express, and it will animate like an emoji or like an emoji or whatever those are.
Well, I mean, it's like a character. I mean, it's digital.
It's an avatar.
Yeah, I mean, emojis are some options, but there are actual characters. There are people that you can animate. I think this is cool because like Will and I are doing some more work in learning and development and stuff, and any place we can find shortcuts to animation of things
Oh,
excites me
please.
because I hate doing that.
Yes.
So like I'm excited about that concept and excited about that cool idea. So we were playing around with it. So if you haven't checked out our YouTube, you can go look at our YouTube and check that out. Will and I made one real quick. The Hitech Robot, as I called him. Beep boop 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 beep 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 bop. This is the Hitech Robot, JK. Did you guys know that you could create a animated avatar with Adobe Express just by recording audio in the default app? I think, personally, I think it's possibly some of the best acting that you'll ever see.
There you go.
He
Showed up.
It's my hot
The
take.
high-tech robot
Yeah.
knows how to do.
Exactly. So you want to check that out on our YouTube. We released a short while we're here at FETC. That's something that happened live while we're here. Not what Will talked about
In
earlier.
2024.
In 2024,
This
that
year.
happened this year. So if you're watching this
You don't
later,
know, I
go
could
to
like
the YouTube account.
not sleep tonight and put this up by tomorrow. I
Yeah,
don't know.
exactly.
Like, I don't think that's the point, but
Yes, we're in the classroom and we're doing a great job with this thing here.